So it's been a while. I was trying to hunt my next guest for the episode. And I thought, why not invite someone who has been playing with the word marketing when I was trying to figure out what subjects I should take in my high school. Playing word इसलिए because जब लोगों को brand और communication का मतलब नहीं पता था, she was heading big ticket accounts at Ogilvy. जब startups को startups नहीं बोलते थे, she was heading marketing for a fintech called Oxigen. Someone who has been well versed where Kotler principles stand right to even today, and my dear boss for a couple of months, रचना. ये बिल्कुल मंडे मॉर्निंग वाली फीलिंग आ रही है जब हमारी मीटिंग्स होती थी और हमारे को एक डेक प्रिपेयर करना तो था अबाउट कॉम्पिटिटिव और हमारे को पता होना चाहिए था कि वो मार्केट में क्या नया कर रहे हैं irrespective whatever we were doing or not, but we should have we should have been well informed about what was happening in the market, and that was the intent to have those Monday morning sessions. I think I was pretty sorted. I don't know about others, but they were very envy. And we used to be afraid that the deck nahi bana to aaj ka din kharab ho jayega. And Monday mornings, you know how they are. So, welcome to the show, Rachna.
Thanks a lot, Mayank. Thank you so much for inviting me to Marketing Keeda. And it's just unfortunate that you remember those Monday morning meetings as highly stressful. I don't think my intent was to create the stress. It was just to make people learn and to prepare. That's all it was.
Indeed, you did that. We learned a lot. Yeah. So even if I spend very short duration with you, I think I loved all those days. So even in fact, we weren't that active during that period. There was a lot of learning. The learning curve just went high. So it's rightly said that when things are unclear, and you're trying to figure out which way to go, that's the time where you learn the most. So I learned a lot from you, and so I'm glad that you're part of the show today.
Thank you. So am I.
Thank you so much. So the very first context I would like to set before I go ahead and ask you the very first question is that हर इंसान की एक story होती है. And while you've spent those 2 decades, 20 years, my God, in marketing, from servicing
more than 20 years. I was calculating almost like 25 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I would love to make people know, all the listeners learn from your story. What is your story, Rachna?
Okay. So my story, to be honest, Mayank, is a very ordinary one. Okay, I started my career pretty early in life. I was 23, and I started as a space seller for Bennett Coleman. Okay. At that point in time, I don't think I had a clear direction or a vision that I'm going to end up being a marketer, right? I just was earning a living to support myself. And I think when I look back, 25 years that I have spent as a marketer, I have actually built myself in order to become a marketer. And it is, I think, as I've always said, it was just serendipity, because it just opened up in that direction, and gradually I realized this is exactly what I'm passionate about, and this is exactly what I love doing, and I ended up becoming a marketer today. I call myself a marketer today for sure. Now, again, when I look back at my 25 years, I find 3 pivotal points in my career. The first one was, as I said, I started off as a space seller, then I had my child, and I took a break of 3 years. And I wanted to get back on the ramp. And it so happened that I got a call from Ogilvy because there was a friend of mine who was taking a maternity leave, and she referred my name saying that, she can take up my role. So I went for an interview to Ogilvy, and my branch manager told me that so-and-so was actually handling the Nestle CRM account, and we would be happy to take you on board while she's away. And my first question is, what is CRM? Okay. And my heart sank, and I said, I know nothing about CRM. I have just done this kind of marketing and space selling. That's my experience. I don't think I can handle an account like Nestle CRM. So we almost had a psychological contract, my branch head and I had a psychological contract wherein the deal was that in case I don't shape up in, say, next 1 month, I will quietly slip out because this is not my cup of tea. And I was quite confident that it would not work out. But, I think there are common themes which I will speak about a little later. I just ended up working for Ogilvy for next 5 to 6 years, right?
Wow.
And I handled some amazing accounts, and Ogilvy gave me the opportunity. They honed me to be a marketer. That was the place I actually learned marketing. And it honed me to become a marketer, and so on and so forth. The second pivotal point happened when I was working for large MNCs and had a great, huge perks, nice designation, nice brand names. And then I also realized that the world was going digital. I was a traditional marketer, and that is how I was trained to be a
Right.
marketer at Ogilvy. And the world was going digital, and people had started dabbling with it.
Right.
And when I would go and do some Google search about digital, I would just understand nothing of what's happening. And I realized that, and most people I spoke with, they said, till you do it, you don't necessarily get it,
True.
right?
True.
And so I started applying for jobs in digital marketing space, and people would like my profile, but I would get rejected because I did not have digital experience. Now I was in a very funny spot. I had gained a certain number of years of experience, almost 10 to 15 years. And obviously, I cannot go and apply for entry-level role in digital marketing, right?
Right.
So people would find it very hard to give me a spot in digital when people who would be reporting to me would know some digital, things which are digital, but I would not. And they would be very honest and transparent about that, saying that, Rachna, we love your profile, but I'm sorry, we can't give you this, right? And that is when I took my biggest risk, I would say. I joined Oxigen. And one of the reasons I joined, two reasons I joined Oxigen. One, because there was a lot of noise that was emerging on mobile payment side. And I said, oh, this is a growing industry and let's look at that.
Yeah.
The second reason I owe it to the chairman of Oxigen, which is Pramod Saxena. When I met him, that also is a story. I'm from fancy MNC offices. I just went up for an interview to a slightly run-down office in Udyog Vihar, and I said, "Oh my God, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing?" And you ask those questions because you
Right.
just don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I went up to him, and what really charmed me was the fact that he just turned around and said, "Look, I don't have a role for you, but I like your profile, and I'm willing to give you a clean canvas to create something for yourself."
Right.
Now that, for a person who was at my stage of career, was the tipping point. And I owe it to Oxigen to have given me the chance to be able to blossom into a well-rounded marketer, not just traditional, but also digital. So I really worked and played on the digital space a lot, and I learned a lot of stuff there. And again, got the hands-on experience. That was also a pivotal point because from an MNC culture, I moved to a startup world. And it's a completely different ballgame. In fact, I had friends who would tell me after a couple of years at Oxigen, "Oh, yeah, enough. You've done enough of startup. I think it's time that you get back to MNCs. What are you doing in Oxigen?" kind of thing. I wasn't able to explain to them that every day I was learning something.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for me to tell you that I may not have a whole lot of X number of perks that I would otherwise get, or things that we always took for granted in a very cushy job.
Yeah.
Here, the kind of learning that I was getting was something which was incomparable to anything outside, right?
Correct.
So that was my second pivotal point. The third pivotal point was when I moved from B2C to B2B, which was very recent in 2019. Again, a very, it was almost like I was planning to exit from Oxigen and I was looking for what opportunities to take. And again, you when you're doing job hunting, you go and network with people, you talk to a whole lot of people, and somebody just introduced me to Axel Partners. And they have a very nice setup of HR, and they interviewed me and they understood my profile. And they asked me, there's a opportunity at Vinculum, which is a SaaS company. Would you be open? And I mulled over it. It took me almost like 7-8 months to make a decision to, completely change. But I think I could not have asked for anything better. So, few common themes that emerged in my entire journey in 25 years. The first is the kind of people who betted on me. The guy in Ogilvy, my branch head, who betted on me, knowing that I don't know anything about CRM. He must have seen something, maybe my hunger to learn, right? And my hunger to, I will do what I will do. What I'm supposed to do, I will definitely do and give it my best shot. So that was the first part, which is at every stage of my career, the people who have betted on me, whether it's Pramod Saxena, whether it's Vinculum, where the founder was willing to take a risk on a B2C profile, who's making a transition to B2B profile, which is a completely different ballgame, by the way, I've just discovered. And That I think I owe it to in terms of my ability to move on and grow, and
Right.
learn. And the second is somewhere within me, I think they saw potential, which I personally did not know I had. When I look back, I realized that yes, I do have that potential. And I think what kept me on to this game, because I don't think it was a cakewalk, it was very, very tough.
Right.
What kept me going was one simple mantra that I used to ask myself at every stage of my career. And I think it's important to do that reality check all the time, which is what I'm doing today, is it making me employable?
Right.
Will I be employable and relevant to the outside world?
Correct.
And that has actually helped me a lot. And I also mentor my team, and I tell them about this. People who are essentially very, very young, and they are like stuck in their jobs. If you're learning and you feel that you have created a certain employability quotient with respect to what you're doing, I think you're on the right track. Don't question it too much.
Correct.
Things start happening, things start unfolding. So I guess this is my story, and this is where I am. If you really think that I have been successful in any way, I can only attribute it to my people who have betted on me. That's I think the biggest contribution in my career has been by the people who actually betted on me along the journey. So that's how it has been.
That's a wonderful story to hear. I think everyone out there, especially the new kids on the block who are trying their hands in marketing.
Yeah, and yes, and the other thing I want to also mention here is when I started my career, there was no computers. Okay,
Wow.
so if you look at my career span, the amount that has changed, the number of times I had to pivot, is not easy, right? I did not know how to use a computer. In fact, I still remember in Ogilvy when I had to make my first presentation. I was coming back after a maternity sabbatical, mind you, right? So
Yeah.
3 years I was completely out of circulation. And then when I come back and then I'm supposed to make a client presentation, and I didn't know how to work on a PowerPoint presentation. So I actually took help of my colleague, and she actually taught me how to do it, right? Likewise, the digital space, right? I could have turned around and said, hey, I know traditional marketing and I know how to do 360-degree marketing, but I don't know digital, but that's not something that I have been trained for, and I'm not really interested. It doesn't excite me anymore.
Right.
At that stage of time, I could have had the luxury of saying that, to be honest, because one did not even realize, one could have been short-sighted and one would have realized that how the world is going to change. It's changing in weeks.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
And today, if you have not sampled or not dabbled with all that, you are essentially a fossil, right?
True. Yes.
So this whole period, each time trying to reinvent yourself is not easy. Coming out of your comfort zone and learn a new skill is not easy. But that's something which has really helped me and put me in good stead, throughout my career.
That's something which everybody should learn from, actually. Trying to learn and unlearn, and then again learn and then unlearn, and keep repeating that till the time you can work.
And when I look back now, I see that I'm in a great spot for one reason. Whether I'm considered successful, unsuccessful, that's immaterial. I think I'm in a great spot because I have the best of both worlds. I've had the complete experience of a traditional marketer as well as digital.
Right.
In today's age, there are a lot of people who do digital marketing may not have necessarily had experience in traditional. So this perfect mix actually helps you apply in a lot of situations. The ability to do 360-degree marketing, for example, in digital space.
Yeah, true.
A very small thing, but the impact that it has is something which you can only do if you have tried and sampled different things, and you've experimented with different things.
So this brings me to the next question of the podcast, a very interesting one actually. And this question, I've been waiting for a very, very long time. Like you said, you've been on both sides of the business, on the core business side as well as the marketing side. And I know there is a thin line between, there's a gray area which lies between both of them. But which part of the business have you enjoyed more, core marketing or core business?
I think I was very fortunate that no matter what brand I worked for, whether it was Ogilvy years, whether it was Bennett Coleman years, whatever I did was very target oriented. Okay. So, in fact, in Ogilvy, there was to be something called the weekly finance meeting, okay, which my branch head used to run. And it was a killer. Believe me, it was a killer. Okay. We used to all dread the weekly finance meeting because you could have done the greatest of campaigns, you could have done everything, but end of the day you had to commit on a number. How much will you get from that account? And second is, you have to collect that money. Okay, you can't just, okay, I did the campaign, I've raised the invoice, and the money can come later, right? So that piece was, it had to be, the loop had to be closed, and you were completely accountable for it. So that was one training that we got there, which I thought was extremely valuable, which was to be completely numbers oriented, be completely steadfast on the target.
Right.
When I moved to the startup world, and to your point, saying that today's marketers, they are very sales driven. I don't blame them, because startups these days are VC funded. And VCs, when they're putting in money, they really need to know, if I have put in $100, how much are you getting me in return, right? So the whole focus has changed to immediate returns. Unlike, I did 3 campaigns in a year, which was like a high decibel campaign, and the perception of branding was X, and we can just turn around and say, oh, this was like the brand perception has increased and brand recall has increased, but there was no way to measure it, and which is how digital has completely changed it, right? You can actually track it.
Yeah.
And again, the startup world has changed it because of the fact that VCs put in money and they want that return to be seen immediately. So marketers have to be focused. Today, when I do my weekly reviews, or when I send a weekly update, believe me, it's more numbers than anything, and less qualitative.
Right.
It's less creative, less brand story, and more numbers. The world of marketing has changed completely. I don't think I have a choice to say I don't enjoy it anymore. I think there is no choice but to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you will never be able to do a good job of it, right?
True.
So since the language has changed, I have adopted to that language. But if you were to ask me, it's a no-brainer that you will always love to do that high decibel campaigns, which has a brand ambassador, and there's But I also like to tell people. In fact, most people think that marketing is all fluff and lot of glamour. Okay, little knowing that marketing is so labor intensive.
Yes.
There is so much hard work that goes and so much detailing that goes. What people finally see is a video and they say, oh my God, you must have had such great fun in the shoot. One has no idea what goes behind it, right?
Seriously.
So that is also, something that that gives you a big high and you really enjoy it. But everything has its own, I would say, positive. And one should just taste the positive and keep moving forward and keep adding to the experience. That's my take.
Great. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So I remember while we had to execute campaigns at Red FM for brands, and those days were like hell. So if some campaign had to break on a Monday morning, we knew that our Friday evenings were screwed. But now when I look back, I think I really enjoyed those days. I now somehow miss those days where we used to be maybe at Samsung's office or OLX office or Pepsi's office. We used to sit there till maybe 10 o'clock in the night. And that what broke the ice between the brand guys and us. Because post that, once the campaign went successful, we used to party together. We used to meet more often. We used to think on more new ideas of how we can do much better campaigns than the current one. And I think that really used to break that monotony in your career of just doing the regular job and learning something new every day. So that's something fantastic.
In fact, I remember during the Oxigen days, there was the Sachin Tendulkar ad was supposed to break out when the India-South Africa series was, kickstarting in Mohali.
Right.
And the shoot was, it was like done in a very, very tight budget. And the shoot had happened in the last week, just 1 week before it was supposed to be aired. So you can imagine how close we were, right?
Yeah.
And once everything was done, and then the tapes had to be shared with the media house, and we realized that there was a certain process after the tape was ready. There was a certain process that to be completed, and that would take another 48 hours.
Right.
And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. That weekend was a nightmare for me. Okay.
Yes.
And there was a 2nd October coming in between. So
You should.
I cannot imagine how. So those are things which one remembers. I
Yeah.
think that's what creates the whole excitement to this whole thing. Yeah.
Great. Great. And this brings me to the very important question of my podcast. ये marketing का कीड़ा आया कैसे? Now, how did you end up in advertising and marketing? Yeah, of course, you shared your story. Your friend introduced you to Ogilvy, but then that कीड़ा had to come in, no, at one point. वो कैसे आया? मतलब you were doing CRM.
I think the Kira happened in Ogilvy, if you ask. That was when I thought that, yes, I want to be a marketer. Okay. And I think the whole energy levels of the creativity and the whole thing of how creativity and advertising achieves business goals, that whole connect was something which I saw happening in front of my eyes with so many brands. That this whole storytelling approach, having a one powerful idea and then creating a complete campaign around it, which delivers on a certain business objective. You get a brief from the customer, from a client, and then you sit and ideate and you brainstorm and you create something fascinating out of that. That entire thing actually happened in Ogilvy, and I really owe it to that place because that was really my school of learning. If you were to ask me, a school of learning to be in order to be a marketer. And that was the day I decided, hey, I am a marketer and I want to continue to be a marketer. That was the foundation stone, if you want to call it. The campaign goes live, you get a response, you hear about it, it's talked about, people recognize your brand, and you just realize, my God, one small idea, seed of an idea, and how it's made things move and how it's made things change for a particular brand. Um, you just understand the power of it, and that creates the excitement.
That's great.
That's how
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
But moving to your life, who has been the most influential person in your life? It could be your parents, your boss, your daughter. She's doing fantastic in her career right now. She just entered into the corporate world. But I want to know whether who's that most influential person in your life who literally made you where you stand today.
I will name three people,
Okay.
and all three of them are women. Okay. So the first one was my grandmother. So I was raised by her. She used to live with us, and she had become a widow at 20,
Oh,
and she'd had a very tough life. Okay, raising an only child in imagine those years, etc., which is just pre-independence and stuff. But the kindness and warmth that she had is something that I can smell even today. And she taught me that whole thing of kindness, the warmth, and the perseverance. Perseverance is something that I learned from her, right? So she has been a very sharp influence in my life, early years of my childhood. She passed away a couple of years after my marriage,
oh,
but first person who I would say, the first woman who really influenced me. The second was again my favorite place of work, which was Ogilvy, and my boss there was extremely had a very deep influence on me. She was the branch head, and the way she used to manage the work and family, and highly smart and dynamic, and the way she used to make people do things and get things done was not just by not she was not really a hunter wali. She used to motivate people to actually set up and do things which are she used to create a goal and a purpose, and she would and then the people would just fall into action.
right.
And that power that she held amongst all of us is something which I don't think I have found anywhere else. In fact, I still remember there's a small episode here. We were all handling our different accounts, etc., very busy with our days. And one day, what she did was she actually came back. There was a client of mine which was giving me a lot of trouble, and there was a lot of heartburn that I was going through. And so I went up to her and I walked up to her and I said, you know what, Vishali, I don't think that I will be working. I want to work on this account anymore. Okay, it was a global brand and a very, very prestigious one at that. So I just walked up to her and I said, I can't work for this client. I think they just don't know how to treat people, and I'm not okay with this kind of a behavior. And I would just like to wash my hands of it. So I expected her to listen to me and give me this response saying, okay, fine, let me understand what's the problem, or, hear me out and all that. She didn't do that at all. She just turned around. She said, you don't have that option. Go fix it. Just go fix it. Don't ask me how. Okay. And I was like so, I would say heartbroken, because I thought she would support me. And here she is, where she turns around and says, just go fix it, without giving me an idea as to how to fix it. Okay. And so I just went home and I mulled over it and I said, what the hell and all that, I was really upset. And then, better sense prevailed. And I said, okay. And anyway, fact of the matter is, when you have EMIs, you need a job, right? So I said, I have to figure out what to do. If she said, and since I used to look up to her, I actually gave some weight to what she was saying. And I said, okay, fine, let me just figure out what to do. So what I did was, I actually called up that client and I said, can I meet you tomorrow morning? I need to speak with you. And I walked up to the client and I had a heart-to-heart chat, very transparent chat, where I also said, I have a feeling that you have a problem with me. Something as transparent as that. Believe you me, it was the turning point of my relationship with that client. So much so that when I was leaving Ogilvy, I got a phenomenal farewell from that brand. Right? So I think these are things which only Vaishali could have done. The way she used to actually make you bring out the best in you and make you perform is something which I learned from her. The third one is actually an expat colleague who joined us in American Express to handle a project. And I have not seen a more focused professional in my life. Okay? She would actually come in, given the Delhi traffic, it was completely alien to her. So she would log in at 8 o'clock in the morning and she would leave by 4:30. Okay. And when she would log in, she would actually be just sitting in front of the computer. You would never see her having a water cooler conversation. All that she did was focus on her work and her delivery and out at 4:30. In fact, in the beginning of the year, she would actually give out her dates. These are the dates when I would be vacationing. And no matter what happened, there could be a big campaign that's breaking out then, or there is a leadership team which is visiting from another country, or a regional head who's coming. But she would still go on and continue with her leave, ensuring that everything was taped up, right? I actually learned a lot just looking at her.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was not that she was a control freak. She actually developed a team of high performers. So those are some of the things. These are the three women. And today I hear that she is actually the CEO of a bank in Sydney. And it's not that you do, and in my view, it's not that you have to engage with them in order to learn. Just by observing so many things you can learn. And just the fact, so there's a very interesting episode of that expat colleague. There was, typically how we have in India, right? We call for a meeting and we say, oh, these people, so many people are required and stuff like that. So in Amex, meeting was sacrosanct. It's supposed to start at 9:30. It has to start at 9:30. So, Donna would always ensure that she was bang on time and stuff. So the meeting started. My colleague had called for a meeting. The meeting started. He set the context for the meeting. And he was just 5 minutes into the meeting when she interrupted and she said, I do not understand the role that I will play in this meeting. I'm not able to understand that. I think it would be prudent that I exit from here. And she just left. For her, time was so valuable because she had to accomplish so much. She did not waste time on meetings which were unproductive.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And these are things that are very, very critical. And, I wish I could apply it. I could apply it throughout in my career. I don't think I have been able to because each work culture is different.
True.
Right? But yes, I'm cognizant of the fact that these are, of course, mantras for success. If you can, nothing like it.
Which have been your most successful campaigns and the worst ones? And your learnings from both of them?
Sure. So I think it's a no-brainer. My most favorite campaign is the Stroke of Midnight campaign. And the one that I did, which was for the Oxigen wallet launch, which won several awards of the Abbeys and stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks to its brand communication. I think they came up with a brilliant idea. And the execution was stellar. But I think the reason why Stroke of Midnight is my favorite campaign is not because it won awards, and it also helped in meeting the business objectives at that point in time. The reason why it was my favorite is for two reasons. The first one is the fact that it was done in a shoestring budget. Okay. And I did not, except for ITSA, which was a boutique agency that I had hired, I did not have any media agency. Okay, so I remember that those 3 months where we were building, the brief was approved in the month of July, and we had to launch it on August 15th. Actually, August 1st, because the campaign had build up started from August 1st. So you can imagine, just like almost like a month we had. In that 1 month, you just have one boutique agency, and I had a skeletal marketing team, right? Me and one more person. And what we did was we were all hands on the deck. So I was calling up radio stations. I was negotiating rates with, the holding companies. I was trying to figure out how will I do the digital, streaming, because it was supposed to be a digital streaming event. So which means that I had to understand the technology.
Correct.
Please understand, there was no Zoom, there was nothing that time, right? So I had to understand the technology of being able to have a certain number of audience logging in with live tweets going on, and how will it be aired. And I had no clue how to do it.
Yeah.
There was no ready reckoner. It had to be all figured out. So in that 1 month, the amount of learning I had is something which I can never, ever forget in my life. And I think I'm extremely grateful to Almighty for having given me that opportunity. I think the other thing was the fact that, I still remember those months I never slept. I ate crap, and I ate at odd hours, and I gained so much weight. Okay. But when I look back, I think I would do it again, because there is no replacement to that kind of learning. Okay. So it ended up becoming a phenomenal campaign. And there are times when I have now, even today, when I have walked in to some meetings and I've introduced myself and I've said, yes, I was working in Oxigen. In fact, it was a meeting in Google, and I remember walking in, and there was this guy who turned around and said, hey, were you the person on the who did the Stroke of Midnight campaign? And I was like, really? And it was so good to hear that. And he said, that was just a phenomenal campaign you guys did. Nobody again knows all the hard work that went in, right? People just saw the final output, but what went behind the scenes is when I talked to Emmanuel, who was the CEO of ITSA Brand Communications, we actually remember those days with such fond memories, and the uncertainty of so many things, and still being able to pull it off. The last day when the event happened and it was a success, and when we partied, just as you said, right? You party and you just like feel everything. It was the 15th of August, and it was a holiday, and I was taking my flight back from Bombay. When I reached home, I just slept. I think I must have slept because I was so tired and stuff like that. So that was my, the first one. And also the second reason why it's my favorite is this was the first time I had converged traditional marketing with digital.
Yes.
Right? So it was the first digital live event, never been done before. So my entire principles of traditional marketing was applied onto the digital space as well. Yeah. And I think that's, again, something which is phenomenal in today's day and age, because typically you don't see these kind of things happen.
True. Yeah.
So I think that's the reason I call it my favorite. In terms of worst ones, well, there have been several goof ups. If you're a marketer and you've not goofed up, you're not a marketer, to be honest.
True.
But there's one which I'm really embarrassed about. This was again in my years of Ogilvy. We had an excellent creative idea, and it was for a client which was into human resource consulting, and it was an excellent idea, and it was bad execution on account of bad production. Okay, I was still inexperienced, and I could not foresee some of the challenges, beforehand. So as we were going through the whole process of execution, things did not come out the way it was anticipated, and the client ended up taking a lot of flack internally. And when I think of it, I actually recognize my failure in that, and also I'm extremely embarrassed about that particular episode, because sometimes you actually end up having, when you're working on something, you end up having a blind spot, right?
Yeah.
And then when you share it with 6 people, and then somebody comes up with a certain insight which you may have missed, it always helps. Yeah. So these are the two things that, I would say my best and my worst.
this is what people are actually tuning in for, that they want to learn from what you have learned. What is the story behind, what is your life story? This is what this podcast is all about. That a lot of incidents which have happened in your life, and you learn from it, and you then pass on that learning to people. If I hear to your stories, maybe I have something to learn from, and this is what my audience always do. So in last 3 episodes, this is what I've done. I've tried bringing out life stories, and I think this episode will be a major hit. Next question. Now we've witnessed 2 lockdowns, 1 and 2. The second lockdown wasn't that linear, but of course we had a lot of loss of lives. But both these lockdowns have taught us something, right? We've gone through the worst phase. Everybody has indirectly or directly suffered through this. What has lockdown taught you? Upskilling, baking, cooking, maybe some new activity, something. But what has lockdown taught you?
Oh, many things. I think this is something which I can bet my bottom dollar. Anybody who asks, they will all have huge learnings from the lockdown, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, uh, I think I realized that there is honestly no place like home, right? That's the first learning I have. And if you are restless within your own house, then there is a problem within, and you can actually fix it. You can practice certain things, and you can actually fix it forever. The second thing was, of course, it freed up a lot of my commute time, and that I decided to invest. And I invested in a lot of things. Of course, I took care of my own parents. I got a chance to take a better care of my own parents. But apart from that, I actually helped a friend work on influencer marketing campaign for a fashion brand.
Oh,
And that was something which is completely something I've never done before. And I just did it because I wanted to learn how does this work. How would you monitor it? How would you understand? How would you track the success of it? How would you identify them, etc., etc. So the whole thing about influencer marketing is something that I did for a friend of mine, and I learned a lot in that whole thing. The other one was I attended one of the most spectacular LinkedIn optimization sessions by Webber
Above.
Simply.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. It was a 1 week program, and it taught me so much about LinkedIn algorithms,
Yeah.
right? And and that's something that I realized, that when you've reached a certain stage in marketing, most of the things are done by your team, right? But so you tend to be a little away from the actual execution. But if you really understand the nuance of it becomes so much better for your team, because you can also guide them, you can work on it, you can co-create something. And I actually learned so much from that LinkedIn optimization. And so he used to give us homework every day. And so you had a full day's work, and then you had the session in the evening, and then you had homework, etc., etc. The third thing I did was I had started singing. I had started
Oh,
learning to sing, more like a mid-age crisis, I would say. And I gave it up. I moved homes, and my singing teacher, she moved to. I left her behind in my, the place where I was earlier. So then I had just lost track of it for 3 years, and I said, I should just get back to
yeah.
that. And I figured out that today, thanks to lockdown and thanks to technology, you now have so many platforms which are actually helping you with, learning music online, right?
Yeah.
And I signed up for one of them, and I am doing good again. I'm back on track, and this time I have taken up taken it up on a more serious note. So I'm learning Indian vocal classical, which is very
Wow.
tough,
Wow.
but I am learning that. The fourth thing that I did is I've started learning how to grow vegetables in my container garden. So there is palak, and there is karela, and there is mooli, there's gajar, and all those things which is growing in my container garden. And it's extremely satisfying to see that grow and eat it.
But singing something very new, which I never knew of. So I
Oh
know this
God,
is
I'm
this is
not
completely out of the
prepared for
box,
this.
but
Okay, so let me just do a short thing which I'm still learning. And if I'm going out of tune, it's because I am just kind of
no, it's because of the internet.
still getting my
It's
still
because
getting
of the
my.
internet. You are fine. It's because
Sorry.
of. I'm saying you will be fine. It's because of the internet. It might sound out. You'll be fine. You'll rock it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So let me just start with, it's basically an arrow, which they say, in a raga. And I'm right now practicing. It's used for the riyaz purpose. But I will just sing 2 lines of it. Okay, so here I am. Me sa ga ma pa ni sa sa ni dha pa ma pa da ma ga re sa. Let's keep it just here.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. Brilliant.
I don't know whether it's great or not, but it's just a small arrow from a rag.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so in my first bout, when I was starting to sing, my daughter used to complain, like, what the hell do I wake up to every morning, So I think the best compliment I got was 3 days back. She turned around and we were just talking about something, just in the house and stuff like that, and then she just suddenly ended up saying, "Oh, by the way, Ma, I just want to tell you that you've started singing well."
Oh, that's
Now,
nice.
coming from her, that is a big thing. Okay, that's a big thing. For her to come and just say out of the blue without soliciting that response, it was something which was just, so I said, okay, now that gave me courage.
Moving to the tech part, are you a gadget person? And if you are, what are the latest possessions you have?
So my latest gadget is a wireless headphone, which I got from my daughter as a gift on my birthday recently.
Wow.
And I'm just hoping that my dog does not chew it up. So it's something which is very handy and it's very nice. And I thought it was a very thoughtful gift.
Do you read? And if yes, what are you reading these days? What is that latest book you're reading?
So yes, I do try to read. In fact, I have always been an avid reader, but thanks to the lockdown and now that I have more time, I ensure that I don't go to sleep without reading a few pages. Okay? So I'm right now averaging around 2 books a month. So I just completed Karma by Sadhguru because I also follow the Isha Foundation. And it's a great book, and I don't think I should talk too much about it because I will not stop the next 30 minutes. The second one, which is actually a hidden gem, which is by a guy called David Bodanis. It's called The Art of Decency in a World That's Gone Mean.
Okay.
So, and it has historical case studies of, how just the simple virtue of being decent has actually made magical things happen. So, for example, the Empire State Building was actually built in a year, and all that. There is a complete story of how they actually ensured that there was empathy and decency in the way they were going about it. Okay, that was the primary value that was driving the whole construction. The second one is actually something which I found most gripping. In fact, that was the first case study. The first one is by Danny Boyle. Actually, the first one is about Danny Boyle, who was given the task of the London Olympics inaugural ceremony. Okay, and the deal was that everything had to be the big surprise. So whatever that was supposed to happen in that inaugural ceremony had to be kept a secret.
Right.
Now, when you have an inaugural ceremony at that scale, how do you maintain secrecy when you have a large crew operating it?
Right.
And people turned around and said, "Oh, we must have penalty and we must punish people who leak out the things and stuff like that." And Danny Boyle turned around and said, "What if we just ask nicely? We tell people just nicely that they should not leak it out." And believe me, it was the best kept secret. So it's a phenomenal book. It has beautiful stories in this. There's also a third story which was extremely moving about this guy who lost his wife in a very, very basic operation surgery in in a hospital, and it was completely fine. She was just supposed to go in and just come out, and she never came back. He had a small child, and one would actually expect this man to be filled with anger and a lot of venom against the administration, against the doctors. But this was something which happened at the stage of anesthesia, and he tried to understand what went wrong. While the doctors were very dismissive, he actually got down to understanding and researching what went wrong, and then he created a complete movement in collaboration with the doctors, to ensure that others do not suffer, with this kind of a loss on account of, you know, such a situation. This is a kind of book that I really like reading, and it always motivates you. It makes you stop.
Now, a very interesting question, and let me put it this way: is if you were Mayank and I was Rachna, what would you, as Mayank, would have asked Rachna?
So my first question will be, how are you looking younger? So what are you eating? I'm sure your wife is giving you some amazing diet and you're becoming younger and younger by the day. So please, can you please send me a cheat sheet on that? That would really help.
Yeah, so my wife literally keeps an eye on what I put in my mouth the entire day.
Okay.
Thanks to lockdown, she has a constant focus on me. On not on me exactly, she hates me, but she keeps an eye on what I eat. Yeah,
Helps to have a
we we have moved to that stage in life that where we hate each other. If I think that she's away from me and she's on some other room or she's on her personal call, and I just try to hide and pick up something from the fridge or maybe pick up a few chocolates from my kids section, and I put it in my mouth. She just emerges from somewhere, and then my whole day is screwed. So
So
yeah,
it's showing on you. You're looking much younger. You're looking much healthier. Healthier in the right way, not in the wrong way.
yeah. At that time
So
when we were working together at Oxygen, I literally had gone completely haywire on my health. I was hawking like anything. I was drinking like anything. Now it's pretty controlled.
the second question I wanted to know was, what made you start Marketing Keeda? What was the trigger point which where you said, okay, let me start something fun? I've also seen you, you have your own website, mayanksehgal.com. So I just wanted to learn a little bit about what your plans are, what led you to this path.
So I ended up joining a lot of courses. I did Google digital course. I did content marketing from UCLA. I also did a few independent courses, and I also joined a lot of startup meets where I was learning from a lot of new marketers, new age marketers. They were hardly 18, 19, but they were doing wonders. So after doing almost 9 to 10 months of research and studying and upskilling myself, I realized that there's something which I need to do for myself. None of the podcasts I could find, which were talking about the stories of people. That today in India, if somebody like you, Rachna being CMO right now, spending 21 years, how did they end up in marketing? What was their life story? Nobody was talking about that. So I did 3 episodes last year, and these are people who've diversified from one kind of business to another and literally have seen success. So I thought that's the right format to be in, to bring out life stories, to bring out stories which I would love to learn, I would love to listen to, I would love to watch as our audience. So अगर मुझे पसंद आएगा, if my audience will love it, then everybody will love it. So that's where I wanted to be. Marketing Keeda is a very तो बेसिकली मुझे लोग बोलते हैं कि मेरे अंदर कुछ कीड़ा है कि मैं एक जगह स्टेबल नहीं हो पाता, मुझे कुछ नया करना है. तो अगर मुझे ट्रेडिशनल मीडियम स्पेस सेलिंग करनी है तो मैं डिजिटल में घुस गया हूँ. ऐसी था. आई वाज डूइंग रेडियो एंड आई वेंट टू शॉप क्लूज फॉर टू रेज monetization team there. It was called a seller marketing team. मुझे वहां कुछ समझ नहीं आया तो आई मूव टू ऑक्सीजन बिकॉज रिमेंबर द स्मार्ट इंडिया प्रोडक्ट एंड ऑल दैट. आई सॉ एन अपॉर्चुनिटी देयर. Though that didn't work really, but yeah, so I keep exploring. So वो कीड़ा था मेरे अंदर एक, तो मेरे दोस्त कहते थे सर कि तेरे अंदर कुछ कीड़ा है जो कुछ करना है तेरे को. So that's where that कीड़ा word came from, and I named my podcast Marketing Keeda. And this is the last question, and specifically for the younger lot, if somebody wants to make a career in marketing as they enter the world today, would you like to share some learnings? Would you like to tell them, give them some insights, give them some advice which they can take that forward and move ahead in their career?
I think I'll give them the 2-3 things that I would definitely tell them. Some of the things I've already covered in my conversation. But the first and the foremost thing that I would tell them is please focus on your health. Okay? And there is a reason I'm saying this. It's not just because, you need to be in great shape and stuff like that. The reason I'm saying this is as I have entered a certain stage of my life, in a certain age, I do realize that your body slows down, right? If you invest in your health early, you reap the benefits for a very, very long time. Right. And it should not be that when you are in a peak of your career, you have to slow down because of your health, because your body is not keeping up to it. If your body is with you, you can, you can actually achieve whatever you want to. But if your body is not with you, no matter with the best of intentions, the best of skills, and the best of mind, you will, after some point, have to give up, right? And that should not happen to you. The second advice that I would give, which I have been talking about throughout, is build, keep upskilling yourself. Okay? Marketing, what was there when I joined and what it is there today, it's just changing. Within weeks, things are changing. In order to be abreast with the changes, you have to constantly adopt, trying, doing new things and learning new skills. And today there is no limitation with respect to learning. In fact, when I look for people, maybe it's because of my own experiences in life, but I always look for people who have the attitude and the hunger to learn something new. People who raise the hand, right? So you are not only, it's almost like a T-shaped development, where you have deep domain expertise in one particular thing, plus you have an horizontal expertise in a couple of other things as well. Right. Now, what you are doing is essentially getting a full and a well-rounded view of how marketing functions. That brings me to the third point, which is you have to stay curious. If I am a content writer, for example, as a marketer, I do content writing, I write blogs. I don't need to understand performance marketing. वो कोई और देखता है. You're totally wrong.
Yeah, you can't.
Because digital is not. Yeah, your digital. It's something which is not black and white, and there is everything connects. Somewhere it goes and connects. You do a performance marketing campaign. It drives results on your in your organic, right? That's a known truth. Likewise, you do a Facebook ad campaign, and you find that there are responses that are coming through your mailers. Your response on your emailers have gone up, right? So the you cannot turn around and say that I just do this and hence I am basically an expert in this. So I think my advice would be, of course, it's good to be a functional expert and understand that. And in any case, that function is evolving, and you should know everything about that particular piece. But you cannot choose to not be curious about how the other legs are working. So stay curious and keep figuring out how the other things are working, and try to get into the T-shaped development. It's something which is phenomenal, and especially if you start it early in your life, it will always put you in a good stead later on.
Honestly, if today our team members from Oxigen from that time will listen to this podcast, because I've already got a message from a few of them once I put that creative out, that I have you as a guest for the next podcast, they will literally understand, especially the junior ones, the younger ones, why you used to take those Monday meetings. Because this all makes sense now. That why do we need to prepare that deck? Why do we need to be aware of our surroundings?
Yeah. The reason I used to do those Monday meetings is because, see, it's a very fundamental principle, and as a marketer, you would understand. You have a content person, you have a digital person, you have somebody who's handling, say, Marcom, communication, somebody is handling PR, somebody is doing something else. If you do not converge once in a week, and you discuss what are the plans that we have for the next month, there is no opportunity for you to cross-pollinate an idea which perhaps is being done in PR but can be picked up in social media, for example.
Correct. True.
And what can we pick up for your own function? There could be something that we can do there, right? So that was the first reason. The second reason is also there is so much peer learning that happens.
True.
Right? And if you remember, I used to always turn around and say that in each marketing meeting, we should also talk about some great campaigns that anybody has seen.
Yes.
Right? The reason for that is because we get so bogged down with our work. We get insulated about our own world. Oh, we are doing great. We do not have an idea. We're not tracking what the world is doing. Maybe there is a new campaign that's happening. Some other brand has done, not related to even your category. But it's a phenomenal campaign, and we should just sit and discuss that campaign as to what was the customer insight, and so there is a lot of peer learning that happens. And you cannot become a marketer if you're just doing, मुझे तो social media सिर्फ करना है. My job is that I should do 15 posts, 10 on Twitter, this on this, and my job is done. No, it will not work. I remember you used to come up with some fancy campaigns that you saw and used to talk about it.
Yeah.
That would help others also learn, oh my God, Nike did something so interesting.
Yeah, true.
Right? Or Samsung did something so interesting, So it's, and in marketing, co-creation works beautifully.
Yeah,
beautifully. And I think everybody should adopt that mantra of co-creation. So when you're working together as a team, you can actually think, you can create magic. But if you're just thinking, mujhe to sirf ye karna hai, and this is my plan, and I have to execute it, and I have to go home, then that becomes a challenge. You don't grow. You don't allow yourself to grow.
Great. So this brings us to the end of the podcast. I think it was a great learning. बहुत कुछ सीखा, बहुत सारी नई stories, कुछ किस्से, कुछ कहानियां मिली. And I think these are the stories you take forward in your life and keep learning from them. But it was lovely having you. So we had a good chat after so long.
Yeah. Same here. Thank you so much once again for inviting me. It was an absolute pleasure and an absolute honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being there. Thank you.
Bye.